Hey, welcome to the Daily Tips, brought to you by the Salty Yak, where we're going to give you our favorite fishing tips. We're going to talk about lures, we're going to talk about techniques, we're going to talk about kayak setups, number of different things. But with episode number 1, we're going to start with my favorite thing, the paddle tail. All right, let's talk paddle tails. There are many different manufacturers of paddle tails, from ones you've heard of to ones maybe you hadn't heard a bunch about, to even ones that are made in people's garages. So I like the Hoagies, the Swimming Jacks, the Major Minnows, the Slayers are my go-to. These are my go-to for redfish. If I'm going to a new spot looking for fish, or I am specifically targeting redfish, this is my go-to type. For trout, these are my go-tos. I don't know why, but I just seem to catch more trout on these down souths than I do anything else. Caught other stuff on them, but those are my go-to for trout. So let's talk color right quick. Mentioned it before. Dark water, dark bait, light water, light bait. This is kind of what I mean. This is kind of my transition. So my magic color, most people call it morning glory, but we just call it the magic color. And so that's what I'm using down in Freeport and Galveston, in Louisiana, in murky water. That's what I'm throwing. But now this is if you see the difference here, long, narrow profile. This is the Major Minnow, and it's got a little more of a belly on it, and it's a little bit thicker. We'll talk more about a little bit different rigging on that. But kind of the transition, take these two out for a minute, from dark water, murky water, all the way up to clear water. In fact, I would also throw in that one. I love the little clear and pepper flake on it. So a good one that I like, they call Electric Chicken, dark on the top, glow on the bottom, paddle tail. Love that one. I've got that one in just about, yep. They kind of got some version of it here in the Slayers too. So, oh, I didn't even pull out a Slayer, did I? Let's pull one out here. Put him on the thing. We'll show you this one. So, there's a Slayer compared to these other ones. Compared to that's the super model. That's the big down south. There's some. Where's the other one? This is kind of the normal size down south. Major Minnow, Swimming Jack, and the SST that we're using. So, but that's my transition. I don't know what they call it. It's kind of a clear gold, red flake, gold flake. I call it clown color, but I love fishing that one. Got it up here too in the Slayers. Love that color in the clearer water. So it gives you an idea what I'm talking about. Dark water, dark bait, light water, light bait, stuff in between. So how do we rig them? Yeah, let's put this back up here where it belongs. I guess, where do you belong? Go right there with you. All right. So how do I rig them? 90% of the time, 16th ounce jig head. Fishing shallower water, and that's all I need. If the wind's blowing a little bit, or if the water's a little deeper, I'll fish an 1/8 ounce. So with this having that little fatter middle, I like these on just a straight jig head. And hopefully you know how to rig them, but if you don't, you find right in the middle there. You run it back, come right out the middle of the top, push it on there, and then there. You want it to be perfectly straight there on the back, ready to roll. So that's how I like to rig it. Whether it's a Swimming Jack or whatever it is, that's how I rig it on a jig head. So we've talked about fishing over oyster, or if you're fishing in grass, or you're fishing in stuff you'll get hung up on. A weighted keel, weedless hook. This one here is the owner ones.
This one here is the Slayer one, and we'll talk about the difference is, look at the gap in those hooks. So if I'm fishing one that has a thicker body, I want to use a wider gap hook. Okay, so what I'm talking about here is, so if I'm going to throw this one, I'm going to go probably with a smaller gap because it's really not that thick of a bait. To rig it up, take that little point, you stick it in the top, makes it super easy. Screw it on there, and hang on, make sure you leave enough that. So when you screw it on, you want that hook to lay straight up and down. You don't want it to lay sideways. You want it straight up and down. And so I want it to lay, when it comes out the back, I want it to lay right there on the back. So to do that, you see where the hook meets the bottom? That's where it needs to go in. And then it needs to go straight up and out the back. And then when it does that, you can pull up there and voila, there it is. You got it just like you want it. And then you can push it forward and cover the tip if you want to a little bit, just to give you a little added extra weedless so it doesn't get hung up, okay? When I do fish this, a weedless type hook or my soft plastics, I go from my favorite medium light rod to a medium so I can get a little bit better hook set on it. So that's my little one there. And I'll use this same one, but this one here, so you can use a little one on a little profile bait, but you don't want to use a little one on a big profile bait. On a big profile bait, you would go with a wider gap. But I can use my wider gap on a thinner profile bait. It doesn't matter. So if I'm going to rig my favorite one up here, same thing. Stick it in here. Give it some twist. Maybe twist it up there. Again, making sure. Come on. We gotta go which way we gotta go here. That my hook eye is straight up and down. I'll lay it there on the back. Figure out where it needs to go. Go right in the bottom. Come right out the top. And bam. There we go again and again. You can do the little bass trick. So I can use the wider gap on a thicker bait, or I could use it on a thinner bait. It works either way. Now I use these in 16th ounce and in 1/8 ounce. Again, same thing with the jig heads, depending on the depth of water, and usually more depending on the wind. So fishing them, super easy. Throw this out, reel it back in. Not hard at all. You can throw it out there. What I like to do is, like, think about it as it's going along like a bait fish twitching. I'll just give it a little twitch, make it dark, kind of a little bit back and forth. But you literally can throw these out and reel them back in. This one I fish a little slower because it'll let it sink down and let it wiggle and move it along. But again, it's just straight out there, twitch it, bring it back in. Another easy way to fish these, popping cork. You can put your soft plastic under the popping cork. Your leader's going to vary on how deep a water you're fishing, and throw it out there. Great for new anglers or kids. And there you go. Oh, my one last tip. So this is my my box, a Tupperware box that I stole from my wife. Shh, don't tell her. It's got the clamps on all 4 sides. So I put all my gulp juice in here, and I put gulps in here. But what I do at the end of the day, when either I didn't catch nothing or my plastic's still in a good shape that I want to save it, I'll take off that hook. I'll open up this little box here. I'll drop it in there. Close it up. Give it a few shakes. And this is usually what I start the day off with. Or if it gets hard during the day, I think that, just that bait having a little bit more and that gulp juice on it, just maybe that lets them hang on a little bit more.
Thank you for joining us. I hope you found these few tips helpful. When you're out fishing next, the paddletail is my go-to bait when I am fishing for redfish or when I'm trying out a new area.